There is a weight to the water here. If you stand on the bridge and look down, you see it immediately. The Rhine does not tumble or rush like a mountain stream. It pushes. It has a heavy, gray-green muscularity to it. It moves with the certainty of something that has been moving for a very long time and will continue to move long after we are gone. And the city that sits on its banks seems to have absorbed this quality. Basel is not a place that flutters. It does not vibrate with the nervous energy you find in other capitals where money is the primary language. Here, the language is stone. It is silence. It is the quiet hum of a tram rounding a corner on a rainy Tuesday. I have walked these streets for years, and the feeling is always the same. It is a feeling of containment. You get the sense that the buildings are holding something in, protecting it, keeping it from spilling out into the street. It is a city of thick walls and heavy doors. This is where the financial world comes to check its pulse. Not the racing pulse of the trading floor, but the resting heart rate, the vital signs. We tend to think of finance as a digital thing, a cloud of numbers flying through fiber optic cables, existing nowhere and everywhere. But that is an illusion. Eventually, the numbers have to land. Eventually, the promises made on screens in London or New York or Tokyo have to be weighed against reality. And often, that weighing happens here. It happens in rooms that are deliberately unexciting. It happens around tables where the coffee is served in white porcelain and the voices are kept low. There is a culture here that suspects volume. If you have to shout, you probably don't have the assets to back up your argument. I have been thinking about resilience. It is a word we use too much until it becomes smooth and round and meaningless. We think it means bouncing back. But true resilience, the kind that keeps a civilization running, is not about bouncing. It is about absorbing. It is about taking the hit and not moving. In this city, they think a lot about hits. They think about the worst days, while the rest of the world is busy imagining how rich they will get when the market goes up. The people here are quietly calculating what happens when the market goes down. And not just down a little. They are imagining the floor dropping out. It is a grim profession, in a way, to be the designated worrier, to be the one who looks at the party and sees only the hangover. But it is necessary. Someone has to remember that winter is coming. That is the essence of this place, memory. The institutions here function as the memory of the financial system. The markets have no memory. They live in the eternal now. A trader sees a price and reacts. But the system needs a part of itself that remembers 1,929, that remembers 2008, that remembers every time we thought we had defeated the laws of gravity, only to fall back to Earth. Basel remembers. It keeps the records. It reminds the world that trees do not grow to the sky. There is a patience in this approach that feels almost out of time. We live in an age of instant results. We want the app to load instantly, the package to arrive tomorrow, the profit to be realized this quarter. But you cannot build resilience instantly. Resilience is a layer, and then another layer, and then another. It is sediment. It takes time to settle. The work done here is the work of accumulation, accumulating buffers, accumulating safety margins. It is the insistence that a bank should have more money than it thinks it needs, just in case, just in case. That is the mantra. It is the most expensive phrase in business, and the most valuable. I watch the people leaving the offices in the evening. They look like ordinary civil servants or professors. They carry umbrellas. They wear sensible coats. There is nothing about them that suggests they are holding the strings of the global economy. And yet, the decisions made in their quiet meetings determine whether a shock in one part of the world becomes a collapse in another. They are the architects of the firewalls. It is interesting to consider how invisible this is. When the system works, when the shock is absorbed, nobody notices. There are no headlines about the crisis that didn't happen. There are no parades for the crash that was avoided. The silence is the measure of success. If you are doing your job right in Basel, the world ignores you. That requires a certain kind of ego, or rather, a lack of one. You have to be willing to be the person who says no when everyone else wants to say yes. You have to be the person who demands caution when everyone else is drunk on optimism. I suppose that is why the city feels so grounded. It is anchored by this responsibility. It is not trying to sell you anything. It is not trying to impress you. It is simply trying to make sure the walls hold. There is a metaphor I often think of when I look at the old fortifications near the river. In the old days, they built walls to keep out armies. Today, the armies are different. They are invisible armies of panic. They are contagions of fear that move at the speed of light across network. And so the walls have to be different too. They have to be built of rules, of agreements, of trust. Trust is a physical thing here. You can almost touch it. It is built slowly, over dinners, over handshakes. It relies on the idea that even if we are competitors, even if we represent different nations with different interests, we all have a shared interest in the roof not falling on our heads. That consensus is hard to achieve. It is messy. It involves compromise. It is incredibly slow, but it is the only thing that works. I find myself walking by the river often when the fog rolls in. The fog here is famous. It softens the edges of the buildings. It makes the trams look like ghosts. In the fog, you have to move slower. You have to be sure of your footing. The financial philosophy of the city is like walking in that fog. You assume you cannot see everything. You assume there is an obstacle just ahead that you haven't spotted yet. So you keep your center of gravity low. You don't run. This humility regarding the future is rare. Most experts will tell you exactly what is going to happen next year. They will show you charts. They will give you probabilities. The view from Basel is different. The view from here is that we don't know. We don't know what the next virus will be, or the next political crisis, or the next technological glitch. And because we don't know, we have to be ready for anything. That is what resilience means. It means having a system that is robust enough to handle the unknown, not the predicted risk, but the unpredicted one. It creates a sort of friction. The markets hate friction. They want the wheels to spin freely. They want leverage. They want to borrow as much as possible to grow as fast as possible. Friction slows them down. But friction is also what allows the brakes to work. Without friction, you cannot stop. So Basel provides the friction. It demands that capital be set aside. It demands that liquidity be maintained. It acts as a drag on the wildest ambitions of the market. And in doing so, it saves the market from itself. It is a thankless task. The teenager always hates the parent who takes away the keys, but the parent knows better. The parent has seen the car wrecks. There is a deep conservatism here, but not in the political sense. It is a conservationist spirit. It is the desire to conserve value, to conserve order. It is the understanding that chaos is the natural state of things, and that order is a construct that must be maintained with constant effort. It is like gardening. You don't just plant the garden and walk away. You have to weed it. You have to prune it. You have to check for rot. If you stop paying attention, the weeds take over. The people here are the gardeners of finance. They are constantly checking the roots. They are constantly looking for the rot. And like gardening, it is a cycle. There is no finish line. You are never done making the system safe. As soon as you fix one vulnerability, the market invents a new one. It is a constant game of cat and mouse. The market is ingenious. It will always find a way around the rules. It will always find a way to take more risk. That is its nature. It is like water, it seeks the crack. And so the observers here have to be vigilant. They have to watch where the water is flowing. They have to patch the cracks. It is quiet work. It is paperwork. It is reading the footnotes in a report that is 500 pages long. It is the kind of work that would bore most people to tears. But there is a nobility in it. I see it in the way the city functions. Everything works. The trains are on time. The streets are clean. It is a society that values competence. It values the person who does their job well without fanfare. There is a reassurance in that. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic, increasingly loud, increasingly fragile, it is comforting to know that there is a place like this. A place where seriousness is still a virtue. A place that isn't trying to disrupt anything. I sit on a bench and watch the barges struggle up the river against the current. They move slowly. Their engines thrum deep in the water. They are laden with goods. They are not fast, but they are relentless. That is the rhythm of the place. Relentless. It reminds me that the economy is not a casino. It is not a game. It is how people eat. It is how they heat their homes. It is how they care for their children. When the system breaks, real people suffer. The savings of a lifetime can vanish. A pension can disappear. The people here feel the weight of that. They know that the numbers on their spreadsheets represent human lives. That is why they are so cautious. That is why they are so slow. They are holding the line. Sometimes, late at night, when the city is asleep, I imagine the invisible architecture that radiates out from this place. The web of rules and agreements that stretches across the oceans. It holds the banks in Tokyo, the trading houses in London, the exchanges in New York. It is a net, woven, fine, and strong, and it is constantly being repaired. A stitch here, a knot there. It is fragile, of course. Everything human is fragile. It relies on honesty. It relies on transparency. If those things go, the net tears. But for now, it holds. And it holds because of the culture of this place. A culture that values the long term over the short term. A culture that values survival over dominance. It is a quiet lesson. It is not one that is taught in business schools. Business schools teach you how to win. Basel teaches you how not to lose. And those are very different skills. As the years go by, I appreciate this gray stone city more and more. I appreciate its lack of drama. I appreciate its dullness. Dullness is a luxury. Dullness means you are safe. We should all aspire to a financial system that is incredibly, painfully dull. The sun begins to set and the lights come on along the riverbank. They reflect in the dark water, shimmering, broken by the current. The water keeps moving. It never stops. And the work here never stops either. It just continues, quietly, in the background, checking the foundations, reinforcing the walls, watching the horizon for the next storm. It is a solitary kind of vigilance, but it is what keeps the roof up. And as the night settles in, the city goes quiet, but you can still feel it. That steady, heavy pulse. The sound of a system that is built to